countdown. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, I think it worked this time. I don't think the internet deities are looking down upon us tonight, because I hit the go live, and it in fact did go live, but there was a countdown that I was not expecting. So we're kind of there.
Cool.
Hi Barry, how are you?
I'm great, I think. It's I'd say again oh, that's interesting. So I can now see the live token, which we assume that means that we are live across the internet. But I've also got a local recording button. So it's basically saying my camera and audio are recorded locally. And please stay after the stream until the uploads finish.
Oh, fantastic.
Interesting. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, that's new. Oh yeah, no, it's talk. So I did something different tonight. I copied our. So before, let's talk show up here for a second. Before, what I've done is I've episode and just kind of updated the titles, and that's usually worked. And then I think something over the last 2 months or so, when we started encountering all these like start time issues, it gave some sort of weird weird fits and starts with trying to get up to the various channels.
Yep.
What I did today was I copied it and made a new one based off the old one, so that all of our stuff is still there, but it's a new event technically. And so I think when I did that, it toggled on some new settings like this local recording thing. So that's great.
Cool. Okay.
Hey, I'm very hyped. So this could go very well or very poorly.
I was going to say, because your visual quality is now awful again, like it was last week.
Well, thank goodness for local recordings. I look great on my end. I don't know.
Well, I look great on my end as well. So, you know, I guess it will be what it'll be.
I wonder, can I toggle this off while I'm... Oh, what am I doing?
You're moving QR codes.
Moving QR codes. That's accidental. I'm trying to click on toggle that off, but I cannot. Hopefully my video comes through okay. If this is uploading the entire time we are going, then this is going to not be great.
Well, I don't think it is recorded. I don't think it is uploading all the time. I presume it is recording locally, and then when we stop, it'll upload. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Potentially, yeah. I'm bringing up a visual here to see my quality. Yeah, that is terrible. That is, as the kids would say, ass. All right. I'm on a good one tonight. I'm like, you got me mode tonight for some reason. I don't.
Oh, awesome!
It's
almost one of my favorites.
It's gonna be great. This is actually here. Let's talk some more shop. You're here, we know why you're here. It's because we set the time for this time, and you're here. The pre-show is where you get all the fun details about how the show comes together. You get additional content. That's why you're here, presumably. I don't know. The reason why the title tonight is called Episode 317 Live Recording. So, what, Barry? 2 hours ago, we didn't know what we were talking.
This is true. I guess we sort of do have this idea. I mean, I guess all cards on the table. Normally, kind of what happens is you choose a couple of stories, or the stories go into the Discord, into the lab, and we then go and have a look through them. Normally, you'll choose a couple and we'll go with it, or as happened in the past, or you'll share them with me and say, what do you fancy? And which is what you did this week, I think yesterday or the day before. I was very much of the, I'm really snowed under, I've got no idea what's going on. And so it wasn't till, like I said, about 2 hours ago, where I turned around and said, well, I quite fancy these two stories. If we're going to do it, we're like, fine. And you just went ahead and cracked on with it. So, yes, normally you do some amazing things in terms of artwork and all that sort of stuff to go out and share on the socials. At the moment, we are flying by the seat of our pants. And we like that.
Yes,
that organic nature of the way we're broadcasting.
Okay, I think I may have improved my visual quality slightly.
Slightly being the right word. Yes, it is a bit better.
Okay, well, it will have to do for right now anyway.
Fair enough.
And hopefully that improves. Okay. Yeah, it's looking better-ish. All right. I'm okay with that. See?
So, considering what happened last time, how much time did it take you to edit that thing? Because that was a beast.
That was a beast. About 10 minutes.
Oh, that's not too bad. I guess you just cut a massive chunk out the middle.
On that, I'm a pro at this whole video editing thing. I can do it. Look, us being stranded is nowhere near what folks on lunar missions. That's a terrible segue. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Do you see what I was attempting to do? Can you do it better?
I was just reading this bit, so no, I didn't actually take on board what you're saying. Sorry.
Okay.
Again.
Do a segue into telling everybody who is here watching right now, which thank you, what the news are, since the title is just, here's the episode, live recording. We don't have... So we're continuing our X of the Moon stories.
We are, because we seem to fixate. Let's face it, we fixated for about 1.5 years on AI stories.
Now it's Space's
we
turn.
are staying away. Another week, we are staying away from the AI, but we are staying with the moon. And really, it's a tale of two halves this week. We're looking at a really potentially positive thing around what the US in particular want to have their what their ambition is about how many times they're going to land on the moon, basically by 2027, and very much up to 2030. And it's a lot. They're going to do a lot of moon landings, so it could be easier to catch a trip to the moon than it is to get my local bus.
And what happens? What happens if that trip ends in some sort of emergency?
Well, that really nicely blends into our second story, which basically means that your the ejector seat is not there. That your idea of surviving if something goes wrong on one of the Artemis projects maybe isn't all we would want. It maybe wouldn't pass NTSB safety standards for crash testing.
But why not? Why couldn't it?
Because basically it's 0. But at least I guess on the plus side, at least on the plus side, your level of expectation is going to be well known. Anything that you get above not dying is a bonus.
Is a bonus. Look at that! You can see the reflection in my glasses now. Maybe, I don't know. My video glass.
It's not amazing, but
all right. Audio sounds good.
It's not as bad as it has been. Yes, audio sounds great.
Fantastic.
Podcast. And again, you're on as opposed to last week when you just disappeared for half the podcast.
That's right. There we go.
Except
you truly carried it.
I mumbled a lot and which you edited out, which was great.
I only edited out some of the mumbles. I edited out and Nick has left us, and here's Nick again. Like everything kind of around, and Nick has chosen to left us. There's a lot of
Oh, I spent all day being really cold, and now my just warmed up a lot, so we can. Okay, there's no strip show, everybody. It's fine.
Get the AC from the theater.
There's a lot of things that people want to see, and that definitely is one of them. Just to talk about the show, have we got another week in aerospace this week?
We do.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
They are on it. This week in aerospace, they are doing a fantastic job. I love.
I did share it with the IEA, the comms team, and them, and I was like, look, there's an open invite if we want to produce some content like this and do some of this stuff, and I've had absolutely no response to it.
You know, I know that there's been an open invite for the technical groups too. I saw an email go out about this. So, you know what? Do we open the door to anyone? You want to produce a segment and put it on the show? Fine.
I think there is an element to, obviously almost within reason, but if somebody's willing to put the time and effort in to produce a segment or work with us to produce a segment, then why not? It provides, because we've always said that we are keen for this to be a springboard of a platform for people to try and do their thing. And if people are willing to put in the effort to make this happen, then fantastic. I think we should do what we can. And the more, if we manage to get 4 or 5 of them, we don't need to do a show. We just press go and then just sit back and watch it all come in.
Yeah. I see no reason why we wouldn't, unless it's if you're trying to do like some promo for something you're working on. No, sorry, I'm not going to do. We don't do that here.
Yeah, if it's, I would say if it's a commercial promo, then no. Well, we will do a commercial promo. They cost money, and crack on. We've got to I've got to pay for my car somehow. But no, if somebody's doing,
years later.
But if you're, I think if people are working on anything that is, if they're like say a technical group or a management group or a society, federated society or a society, human factors obviously, or an associated society, associated topic, then why?
Resources,
if they're willing
to, for the community.
Absolutely.
Resources for the community, research that impacts the whole field, various topics. Like, let's go. Yeah. Send us a proposal.
If it can be even vaguely tangential to the human factors community, and let's face it, we can turn our hand to with excuses to many things. There's very few things I think that we would actually turn around and say, actually, no, that's not us. So, yeah, I think we should just issue the open challenge and just produce stuff and send it. Or if you've got a really good idea, we'll help you produce it. By we, I mean Nick, obviously. But
yeah, the emails are rolling in. Wow.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding.
Before we start, the show notes, I put in some of my notes there. I don't know if you had a chance to. I put in my one more thing. Yeah, it looks like you typed in. Okay, great. Futurism.
Yeah, you did put some bits in. I'm obviously just mentioning the PHM stuff. I want to talk. My one more thing, I want to talk about CAD design. So that's good. I haven't got as many notes in as I would like, but I'm sure that won't be a problem. Yeah, exactly. I haven't. My in-depth reading isn't as good in my stories this week as it usually is, and that's quite a low bar.
The meme. You guys are getting paid. You guys are reading the story. I mean, I skimmed it. Like, they're short stories. They're not super lengthy.
No, I think they're quite good. I think they're slightly at a higher level than what we usually do.
Yeah, that's okay. There's a lot of latitude to explore. Cool. Hey, if you're watching live and want to contribute to the show, you can scan that little QR code. Be a live caller. Do the thing. Should I haven't updated this in a while. Should I take this one off? I feel like I should take this one off.
Oh, because it's got the Twitter logo on
it.
The
bird.
Yeah,
and then I should make some room for this thing consistently there.
Yes, and then because you've got the little live. Problem is, I don't know whether it comes up. I'd have to look on the main screen because it's got live in a red thing on that corner. I don't know
yours
that
says
over.
Live there. Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
It doesn't show up on the actual thing. I'm looking. Yeah, no, it does not show up on the actual feed. There are some interesting new things here.
Right, no, it doesn't. Yeah.
There's like layouts here. I'm gonna play around with some layouts really quick.
Oh, cool.
That's not new. That's not new. What are you talking about? There's this one. Can we swap the? No. Circles. Is that what that means?
Well, like circles. The what?
That's what that means. That these are customized. Oh, hey, we can do squares like this. This might be great if we have like a 6-person someday. We can also do circles.
I like circles. Circles are fun.
Circle.
We do bigger circles?
I can't do bigger circles. That's the best I can do.
But like say, if we had a presumably if we had like again 4 or 5 people, then everybody would be in a circle.
Maybe. Oh, I was hoping that this would just switch. Oh no, go back. Do the ratio. I can change the ratio here. Wow. Okay, it caps out at 40% on my. Hey, why? Why does it do this? All right. Before I mess everything up. Big circles. All right. Okay. I'm done playing with it. You can also chat. You can also chat us, whichever platform you're on. There's usually some sort of comment feature where you can troll other people watching. and us. We're susceptible to trolls too. That's fine. I told you I'm on one today.
Right. I think I'm good with no.
Okay, cool. Then I feel this is weird.
Cool.
Are we like I feel more prepared than normal, which is a weird feeling. Just doesn't feel right.
Well, it's because I guess the one bit I haven't done that I usually do is just because I've written the blurb and then rewritten the blurb. I want to make sure the blurb is doing what I want the blurb to do.
Okay, yeah, do the blurb. Get over screen space again because you got to know. Customized. Here, I'll give you some. No, give me that back.
Oh, that's quite cool. I'd say there's a whole. I like that. I like that a lot.
Wow, that's a fun bit. Oh, just two kidding with technology. That's really what it is. Oh, how could I forget? I should probably preview what we're talking about next week because that was exciting, and I was hoping we could do that this week. But last had Megan Michaels and Aaron Gustafson on to talk about experience at South by Southwest. Megan went back this year and has a lot to say. South by Southwest. Yeah, South by Southwest was last week. And then she got a bunch of travel delays. And so she understandably taking a break this week. But we'll have her on next time in 2 weeks. What is that, the 4th? I think the show's the 4th. 4th of April. We'll have her on in 2 weeks' time. All things South by Southwest. We'll have a list of questions we can ask her. But if you are by Southwest, feel free to drop them in the chat, especially related to like the human factors piece of it. What type of human factors representation is there? What kind of great article presentations? That type. Drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure to ask her when she's on the show next time. This will be fun, Barry, because you weren't on that episode last year, but I'm excited to have you here this year because then you can ask from a what's the word I'm looking for?
An overseas perspective.
Overseas.
I was
thinking
like biased.
I was thinking that like you have had a chance to talk to Megan yet about
True. Yes.
South by. So and
I've never been. I've got friends who've been and presented at South by Southwest, but I've never been myself.
Well, then great. It'll be so that's next week.
That'll be good.
Not next, 2 weeks from now.
Yes, so that will be the 2nd of April.
Correct.
Oh my days! It's like nearly the first quarter of the year is just about gone already. That is,
it's done.
The speed in which this stuff is now moving, I just find mind blowing in many ways. But I've been doing. I won't talk about it on the show, but if I want, I've been doing more of my HF Toolbox development.
Oh yeah.
And so I know you've had to play with my task analysis tool. I'm going to retire that fairly shortly. Because I've made 4 different tools. So one was the task analysis tool, but I've also created a human factors integration or a human systems integration management tool. which is something I've wanted for a long time. I've then also created a researcher and an analyst tool. So one is around when you're doing different types of, you want to do different types of interventions, so like instantaneous self-assessment or NASA TLX or things like that, being able to have being able to plan that and do that. And then the other ones being around managing tests and evaluations. And so rather than develop 4 different tools, I've merged them all into one tool. And so, because obviously it's meant to be an internal tool first, and then we'll see what we do with it. But yes, it's been very exciting about trying to merge all of this stuff together.
When you do eventually, when you do eventually sell it, what you should do is you should sell licenses to each of the 4 different things.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons for doing it. That's the reason why I wanted to build the individual ones first, to work out, get some time back into the coding and using the platforms. But the way I've put it together has been exactly for that. So we can bring them together, and you should, if I do monetize it, then it'll be you can buy a license to one or more of the elements. And then you'll get to use that. But the more you use, the more integration there is. So when you do a task analysis in one piece, then you can use it for the trials in another, which is a bit that doesn't work yet, but it sounds great. But,
sounds great.
But yeah, so I'm very much enjoying using the coding platforms that help you basically develop the things that I've just wanted to do for the longest time and just never done. So very cool.
That is very cool. I need to get some inspiration again, because I've put down my products. I've been busy with stuff.
I think that's probably why I've been doing these pieces. I've got so much other stuff to be doing that I'm like, yeah, let's just do this. So I've been, when your side quest becomes your main quest, you've kind of got your balance a bit out of shape.
Yeah. No kidding. I'm right there with you, and it's actually one more thing, so I'll save it for that. Wow, I'm super hydrated. This is going to go well.
Nice.
Let's just say I'm very thankful we have a 9-minute and 30-second segment here.
I was like that in the cinema today. That I sort of got a bit halfway through where I was. I think I said just before we went live that I've been feeling a bit ropey today. Got a bit of a sore throat and a little bit of a cough. So I'm coughing through this. I apologise, but it was very much of the. As we got halfway through, I suddenly got a dry throat, and I'm like trying to drink so I'm not coughing and ruining the cinema experience for everybody else. We were in a bigger, massive cinema with, I think there was like 5 other people there. It was awesome. But yes, I then drank a lot of Pepsi to stop myself doing that, and ended up then getting about 3/4 of the way through going, I really need to go to the loo. But I didn't want to go to the loo just in case I missed significant bits of the film, which is weird considering I know the story inside out. But there we go.
Well, do you? I wonder if there's anything critical.
Well, I didn't leave. I just I hung on.
Oh, you hung on. Right.
And yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to hold on too. You ready? Go time?
I'm always ready.
All right. I will hold you to that. We're going right now. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Greetings and salutations, Earthlings. You are listening to another episode of Human Factors Cast. This is episode 317. We're recording this episode live across the internet on March 19th, 26. I'm your host, Nick Roome, and I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hey there, Nick. It's great to be here again.
Also, coincidentally, an Earthling. We got for you tonight. Instead of the theme of AI or any AI-related things, we will be picking up right from where we left off last time and be talking about space this week. But first, we got some programming notes. Barry, what's the latest over at 1202?
Well, in a bit of a running theme, the 1202 is we still have February's episode up, and that's the latest one out there with Martin Thodey, the current president of the CIHF and longtime friend of the show. March is running slightly behind, but it is hopefully getting recorded this weekend, because what we're wanting to look at is balancing remote learning of human factors with everything else that goes on, and how does that fit with everyday life. So hopefully if we get that done, then that'll be great. And then that sets us nicely up for what's going to be going on in April, which is where we'll be at Ergonomics of Human Factors 26. And so hopefully we're going to come out from there with a bunch of interviews and all the gossip of the tea about what's been going on at conference. And just to highlight that if you do use the 1202 Human Factors website, then you need to be using 1202pod.com.
I love conference tea. I'm so good. But I'm sorry, folks. I'm on a good one tonight. You're gonna get some zesty one-liners and zingers about the stories tonight. I'm good. Are you good? You want to get into the stories? I want to get into the stories.
I can't wait. Yes. I'm looking for the ride.
Yes, you want waiting for the cue, Barry, so that I can play this. I don't know if Unhinged Nick is our host or a worst host. But hey, this is the part of the show all about human factors news. Barry, for the stories this week.
Well, Nick, as you mentioned earlier, we are going back to space, and in particular, we're going back to the moon, but not to talk about rockets or propulsion or even the technology. We talk about people, because one of the biggest mistakes we still make in complex systems is assuming that if the engineering works, the system works. And in human factors, we know that that's just not true. Systems don't succeed or fail in isolation. They succeed or fail based on how well they support humans, the humans inside them. And in these two stories really do expose that tension. On one side, we've got growing ambition, talk of making lunar missions routine, almost industrialized. On the other, we've got a very uncomfortable reality check. What happens when something goes wrong and there is no easy way to recover? So tonight, this isn't really about space exploration. It's much more about a fundamental question. Are we designing systems that humans can actually live, work, and survive in? Or are we still designing them as if humans are just another component? So let's start with the ambition in our first story. So the idea being discussed is a future where we're landing on the moon every month by 2027. Now, on the face of it, that sounds like progress. It sounds like maturity. It sounds like we're moving away from exploration to operations. But from a human factors perspective, alarm bells probably should be ringing a little bit, because scaling frequency isn't just a logistical problem. It's a human performance problem. When you move to that kind of tempo, you're no longer designing for exceptional performance. You're designing for repeatability under real-world conditions. That means fatigue, training variability, procedural drift, maintenance pressures, organizational shortcuts, all the things we know that creep in when systems become routine. And we've seen this before in aviation, in healthcare, in defense, in oil and gas. As soon as something becomes normal, the system starts to stretch, and the humans inside it start to carry more and more of the burden. So the real question here isn't, can we land on the moon every month? It's more about, what does that do to the humans within the system? And have we actually designed for that reality? Nick, is landing on the moon every month good, bad, or a disaster waiting to happen for you?
Okay, you want an unhinged comment? Here's an unhinged comment. This feels very much like we'll figure it out in post, like we did last week on the show, except for the show is the moon and moon. So how do we figure that problem out later? I think look, the monthly landing cadence to me actually has a societal impact that is I don't think is brought up in the article, but this is something that I think about quite often when we think about space travel and space operations. They are exciting, and they are something that is like aspirational. We develop space technology so that that technology can, for lack of a better term, trickle down to our everyday lives. And so I think what might happen is you might make space less sexy. You're going to normalize it to the point where we don't even care more. Um, we, but on the other hand, we it could go the opposite way, where we treat it as like critical infrastructure that we need to support, is like a part of our everyday lives. I can see it going either way. I tend to see it as being less exciting over time as probably the default. Um, I think if we think about whether or not something like this needs to work, the the cadence must work. If failure with the cadence um, sort of impacts the schedule, there's going to be a damaged public perception of spacefaring adventures just because of the competence associated with that, right? Like it's literally you're trying to run operations to get to the moon every month. If there's continuous delays, then it's going to be seen as incompetence, and it's not going to be seen as anything from a public perspective. Some of the article frames this as like a production with the lander, but but really I think you kind of hinted at it in the intro here. This is fundamentally human factors. This is maintenance, communications, organization, all that stuff is at play here when it comes to get a moon landing every month. It's exciting, but I'm worried. What are you thinking?
I mean, for me, it's about appetite for achievement, isn't it? It's the setting out the stall about what is spaceflight going to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years going forward? Because for the longest time now, I think there's been very much less appetite for spaceflight, space engagement, until SpaceX came along. SpaceX came along, set a sort of a new narrative for spaceflight, showed that it was, from a commercial perspective, more achievable. They were throwing up rockets like 2 a dozen, great, okay, and sort of normalizing it a bit more. But here now we're talking about something that is not just about visiting space. It's not just about going to the ISS. It's about doing bigger things. And ironically, I think we feel that the moon isn't a big thing. That it just going to the moon is like, it's just going to the moon. But it is actually way further away than what the ISS is. And it is a significant thing to do. So it's not just about visiting the moon, but it's about utilizing the moon. I mean, this is what the bigger thing here is. It's about going to that next phase, about having a longer term presence there. I think the point you made was really good around that perception piece, because when this idea that the moon landings might just become dull, boring, because we saw that during the Apollo times, that the early Apollo missions, the world stopped. Everybody wanted to watch what was going on. It was on TV. But if you fast forward to Apollo 13, and you see the live stuff, and it's highlighted in the film as well, where the astronauts thought they were going to be on TV and everybody was watching. No, the news networks didn't really care. It wasn't broadcast until Apollo 13 became a problem, and then it became newsworthy again. So I think that this is probably what we will achieve here, and is that the achievement is that lunar missions, flights to the moon, will become as routine as catching the bus to town. So what I think is interesting here as well is it isn't just about the flight. It is about what it is we're going to do with the moon. and I'll quote from the article that says that the accelerator's flight rate goes hand in hand with preparing the lunar surface for the influx of visitors, which explains the need for monthly missions to the moon. So monthly mission, we're talking about 12 missions a year, which, because I think monthly mission sounds like it's a lot, and it is quite a fast tempo. I can barely get podcasts out in that tempo. Whereas they're talking about doing that, but we are only talking about 12 a year. So that is repeating the same thing 12 times. But what does that infrastructure on the moon look like? So I think that this is what I find interesting is, what do we think that needs to be built on the moon in order to handle whoever is going up there? So therefore that leads you, why are people going up there? What is it that we anticipate doing? So yeah, so I think initially that's where I'm at. What do you see as being so critical that we need to develop on the moon, that we need to have this tempo? What do you think is going to be that starting point?
I see a backup plan for what happens if you get stranded on the moon, but that's our next story. I think a lunar base is likely what they're gearing up for. I think that there's a science that can be done if we had a lunar base, something that we can conduct experiments in reduced gravity, something that we can attempt to lunar soil, those types of things, and really having a habitat that is safe for astronauts to live in on the moon. I think it's the first step, and if are gearing up for that. That makes sense. The thing that strikes me about a year cadence is that, are they obviously these are different crews. There might be some crossover across crews, but that to me, there's going to be these handoffs between things like training and lessons learned that they experience on the mission, and there's going to be a huge I guess need for human factors when it comes to things, so that knowledge transfer happens across crews in a reasonable timeline. Otherwise, you're going to start encountering some of these systemic issues repeatedly that we know are issues that are not resolved early on. That to me is going to be really important for the success of a fast-paced launch cadence. I think there's also a lot. I'd imagine that the moon landing system is likely automated, with some sort of human oversight. But there's going to be some of those things with the automated systems that are in place from Earth to the moon. There's going to be a lot of different procedures that need to be established and maintained and updated over time as we learn more stuff. There's going to be the between I already mentioned, but not only crew but mission control. You also have the coordination between various contractors. I think they mentioned SpaceX in this article, but I'd imagine that there's already some coordination between the various spaceflight companies and contractors. Imagine that there's likely going to be more coordination that needs to happen if you're going to increase the tempo like this. I don't know. I find that there's a lot to think about, and I desperately hope that they figured out a lot of this. But my world is saying that they're going to learn a lot here, and I hope it's not at the cost of. But let me back up and ask you, what do you think they're going to build on the moon? Do you see with this type of speed?
Well, the article does say that they're clearly on about building the moon base, because that's where Isaacman does say, if you're building a moon base and you're going to stay, you'll need lots of missions to and from the moon. So that's an overriding comment. So if you're staying on the moon base, I think there's loads of issues for people around here, because we know that just from the physical perspective, that the issue of gravity on the body is huge, or not a lot, depending on which way you look at it. So when you're not when you're in space, right, as soon as you get into orbit, you start to have to do exercising and stuff to make sure you retain bone density. If you're living on some sort of moon base, then that has long-term effects of the body, or we perceive it's going to. So at what point, because you're going to have, if you're setting up a moon base, how do you crew it? Are people going to be up there for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, years? Or are you going to get to the point where we're actually saying, actually, people are going to go up there and they're not coming back, purely because that if they're up there for any long period of time that they're busy inhabiting the moon, that no matter that you just can't do the level of exercise that is required and to operate a day job, and expect to come back to Earth at the end of it. So there's all that sort of, I think, fundamental question about what does living on the moon mean and look like, and does that 12 flights a year cadence mean that you can have good rotoring of people, that actually you can go up there for a month and then you come back and you don't go back for a period of time? So is it a 1 month on, 6 month off type of view in order to maintain the physiology of your body? Or will people just be happy to turn around and say, you know what, I'm all for space, and I want to go to the moon, I want to go to Mars, that sort of thing. People make some significant life-changing decisions that they say that they properly commit to this, and then that means that there is a whole lot of responsibility there to make sure that whatever systems are put up there are maintained, because it's not like, say, the ISS, where we turn around, and I think it's in the next few years we're going to turn around and say, you know what, it's done now, decommissioning it, let it burn up back into the atmosphere, we're done with that piece. If people are making this long-term commitment to lunar and beyond, we can't just leave them there. It's not a thing. So that's where I think one piece of the sort of the physiology element is going to be really interesting about how we deal with that. Another bit is around the systems and equipment that we end up using, because again, we mentioned SpaceX, but there are obviously other companies out there now within the space race proving reusability. Them rockets are going to be reused on a regular basis. That means that there's going to be testing, there's going to be maintenance of them things. And in the same way that we insist on good maintenance of vehicles and things, we're going to have to make sure that there is enough testing and maintenance, spares, logistics, etc., to match that cadence of rocket use. So at the moment, we're celebrating the fact that, again, SpaceX has reused certain rockets 3, 4, 5 times. If we are putting this into the mainstream, are we expecting to use the same rocket 12 times in a row? Or are we using, what is that mean time between failure expectation going to be for that? And as I mentioned in the blurb, will the fact that it becomes regular mean that we'll be more willing to say, oh, that isn't quite right, we'll just fly it anyway, it'll be fine, and we'll catch it on the next run, which we do see when you have more things like this. And I guess the last bit I would throw out is if this is basically commercializing and having almost anybody or more people can go up to the moon, what role will comfort and class play into this? So, are you going to have rockets with first class and standard class operations, or business class? And are you going to expect to go up there and just be a civilian, and as you get in, you'll have somebody read out, or you'll have the card in front of you that tells you what to do in case of emergency? See the next story. Or are you always going to have professional astronauts doing this? So yeah, I think there's a lot of issues there that we need to really consider. What do you think about this idea about living on the moon and making them sort of people having to make that sort of significant decision? How do you think you would handle that?
I think that's I think that's embed astronauts take just by if we're looking at near astronauts who are embarking on this journey here are likely aware that something could go wrong and that they would spend the rest of their lives on the moon, however long or short that is. There's the more societal, like deeper. What does it mean to emigrate from Earth to their planetary body? That is a different question than I think we're talking about here in the short term, but it is an important one because there will likely be different reasons that people explore away from Earth, right? Running away from your problems, or the thrill of adventure and some seeking, or wanting to continue science in another environment, right? There's different reasons. For a second, though, I'd like to talk about what this means for the people here on Earth. We're on the people going to the moon, but also there's this whole subsection, subclass of people that are going to be affected by this on Earth, and these are the people who are working in mission control, working on the operations logistics of space flight from ground perspective, right? What does this monthly mean for right? Are people going to get burned out on sending up a rocket every month with people on it? Is there going to be any drift in the amount of in the procedures that need to be followed, right? Is there going to be anything that's taken from other domains, like how air control and airports handle flights? Is there going to be something similar for space flight that, once we get around the astronauts only problem, what when we do increase cadence, what if it's once a day at that point? What if you have constant moon landings that just ferry people to and from the Earth, from to the moon? I think that gets into a lot of other problems that are not going to be present here at this 12-month cadence, but or cadence. But I think there are going to be some real human factors issues when it comes to things like alarm fatigue or decisioning when it comes to these like fairly novel circumstances when you're going to the moon once a month that has traditionally been I'm going to use this term moonshot. Like, really, you're going to the moon and you have to think about all these things. I don't know. This is a good segue to the next story, is like what happens when something does go. Is there a backup plan to get those folks off of the moon, or coming back? So did you want to finish up any other last note? Like, we're ready for the next one.
I think that point you just made is actually quite a good one, because when you look at some of these things, we're assuming that on this monthly trajectory, so you've got a bunch of people going out, you've got a bunch of people coming back. We've had some stories fairly recently where people have got ill on the ISS, and then you think about other fairly normal functions of human beings, things like pregnancy, things like just generally getting older, or people have things like panic attacks, or get unexpected claustrophobia, or there's all sorts of things that we sort of take for granted here, that okay, if something significant goes wrong, away you go to hospital, or you go and get some support or whatever. You're not going to have the moon is almost going to be a bit Wild West when it comes to that. So if you turn around and you maybe get ill or something like that, but you've only just got there, so the next shuttle isn't around for another month, what's happening there? Especially if it's something that is like pregnancy or something like that that really relies on gravity to make sure that there's no issues and things and things like that. We're going to have to work out how all these sort of things work and how do we get people back and what do we do with them when they get here, because presumably it's not just the simple case of getting back to Earth and going straight to hospital and something. There's going to be procedures in place, and all of that. So yeah, I'm really quite enthused by this idea that we are going for the bigger picture, that we are looking to set out an appetite for irregular moon journeys, because that can only take us onwards, which has been sort of lacking up to this point. So that'll be great. But I think once that does happen, there is going to be plenty of work for human factors practitioners to be supporting this ambition.
Yeah, I think that's a great transition to the next story. Let's get into it.
Cool. So this second story is about rescuing astronauts. And so this is where the second story cuts right through that ambition that we've just been talking about. Because when you strip it back, there's a pretty stark finding. We don't yet have a really credible way to rescue astronauts if they get into serious trouble on the moon. Now, from a human factors perspective, this is the bit we should always start with, not the success case, but the failure case. Because systems don't get judged on when things go right, they get judged on how they behave when things go wrong. And in this case, we're talking about an environment where you just can't send help quickly. You've got extreme constraints on life support all of the time, and crews may be forced to make high-stake decisions with very, very limited options. So this becomes a question of designing for survival, not just operation. What does autonomy really mean when you're cut off? How do you support decision making when stress, time pressure, and uncertainty are at their peak? And critically, how long can a human actually endure in that system before the system fails them? Because if rescue isn't viable, then the burden shifts entirely onto the crew and the design. And that leads to an uncomfortable but necessary question. Are we building systems that are resilient to failure, or are we quietly accepting that some failures are just not survivable? Nick, what do you think?
The article cites no rescue capability, and I think that's a professional way of saying, yes, you live there now. Now you're in an EVA suit. Like I think, in a lot of ways, this headline is sensational. It's we don't have a plan for what happens if somebody gets stuck on the moon. But I think that is important to think about. If rescue is not an option, what is the option? We can't go through and do the Martian where you have somebody stuck there back and they work on their own to survive. I think when I think about this, I think about applying other domains. So either submarine or offshore drilling, where there are these habitats that are occupied for long periods of time. The moon, ultimately, when you have that base, needs to have some sort of temporary habitat to support until a plan is made. Just because you don't have a rescue plan in place doesn't mean that you can't build one when the time. I think we're hoping best case scenario here, and that's kind of what you were saying, is that we need to design for when the systems go wrong. But if these habitats to help support that, then I think that's important too. The I think what's perhaps a bigger problem than a singular event where something goes wrong is where you have this becoming, I mentioned this earlier with the cadence, but like a systemic issue that happens over time or becomes harder and harder to fix because it's baked in, where, oh no, we've left system failure. Look at them, no problem. Oh, it happened again. Okay, well, you just come back on the next. If we start doing that and making it a practice, that's much harder to fix than trying to solve it, first time around. Curious though, Barry, what do you think is going to go on in people's heads when? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think this is in the initial phase. This has all got to be about the attitude of those users, those operators, those people who were initially there. Because if you're going to go up, I would imagine that the early people who go up are all trained astronauts that have been trained to an inch of their lives, and they all will fully understand the risks. Will be in, as I've termed it, as adventurer mode. They fully appreciate the fact, because they've signed up to the program. They know that things can go wrong, and this has got precedence throughout space flight already, that all the astronauts who go up know that things can go wrong, and they accept that. I think there's real reason why a lot of early astronauts in particular were all test pilots. There was a certain thing around the type of attitude that they have. So but once you transition from that adventurer mode, shall we say, to standard mode, so not, let's say, normal people now are transitioning to the moon and doing more of that sort of stuff. Does that mean that their risk appetite changes? Because how often, whenever you get a new bit of kit, you maybe go and do some you maybe go on a roller coaster or something like that, and you sign the disclaimer saying, yeah, I know that what all the risks are. You sign it off. You don't really read them, but then suddenly you're in the middle of an emergency and you have to do that. You want to get back and you can't for whatever reason. What happens to your risk appetite? You've already mentioned the film The Martian. This is almost a bit Project Hail Mary, where people are going potentially out to something and not necessarily expecting to come back. How does that attitude change? But I guess the other way of looking at it is this just the sacrifice that we pay to be an adventuring type of species? When the early Apollo missions were going on, there was apparently a speechwriter who drafted a speech for Nixon that was intended to be read on TV if there was a moon disaster that actually happened. And a part of this speech says, "Fate has ordained that the men who went to the moon to explore in peace will stay on the moon to rest in peace." These brave men, Neil Armstrong and Edward Aldrin, know that there is no hope for their recovery, but they also know that there is hope for mankind in their sacrifice. And that is very much of that, everybody accepting at that point that these, it just happens, that if things go wrong, that's part of the job. It's not a drama. Just get on with it. That adventurous spirit is going to go away. And we're going to have, like what we have now, an expectation of survival, not an expectation of risk. So we will have to get to. I completely agree with what you say. It's a sensationalist headline. It's a sensationalist article, because we are still at that early stage where we can't expect to know. We don't even know what we're building on the moon. We don't know why we're going to be on the moon in the medium to long term. So how can we truly have worked out what the risks are? Therefore, what are the reactions to those risks? Short of saying, we know that there's going to be somebody who has a medical emergency on the moon. They're going to. So what can you do on the moon? And therefore, at what point do you have to get home? I mean, the correlation with the ISS here, the ISS always has to have a return module, so be it a Soyuz or a Dragon or whatever, linked up to the ISS. In case something happens, then that is the emergency vehicle. They all pile in there, and away home they go with, I think, very, very short notice. is there going to be something like that on the moon where there is a rocket ready to return and it can just load people up and it can go within a matter of minutes? Given the way that a lot of this works in terms of trajectories, time, space, and all that sort of stuff, because it's not a half-hour trip to get back to the Earth, I think there's going to be a lot greater planning involved, and we're going to have to make sure a lot more things can be done on the moon as it is. So, how would you set up, or what sort of processes do we think, from a human perspective, we would need to go through to be able to categorize what gets done on the moon and what doesn't?
Yeah, I think the default should be do everything that you can not on the moon here. Right. It's a plan that's don't get stuck on the moon. I think that's not a great contingency plan.
Yes.
But I think also, when you think about we really need to prioritize what is important when we send people. I'm not saying that we're not doing that. I'm just saying that when we go to the moon, when we go in the space, we should be mindful about what science or mission we are trying to accomplish, not just go for that of it. Which again, I don't think we're doing that, but I've that up to the experts pushing the field in the various domains for what to study next. I think the interesting thing to me is that the the psyche of the people that go, it has to be one that this could happen, right? You brought up the speech, and I think the friends we made along the real payload along the way was the unchecked confidence that these astronauts have. Thinking about going and conducting a mission. I really just like, it has to take a certain kind of person to do it. There's no backup plan for getting somebody home. And that is I know psyche evals happen for astronauts, but that is a very specific type of evaluation that needs to be continued. I don't know. This
It's weird, isn't it? Because I think there is I mean, you raised the point about people going, why people going to the moon, and the fact that we would expect that they're doing it for good reasons and therefore get vetted and the proper medical workups and not to do the job. But I guess what we've seen recently with Blue Origin and a few others, this space tourism, people with deep enough pockets, certainly at the moment, people with deep enough pockets being able to jump in into one of these things and fly to the moon because they can, not because they should, but just because they can. And certainly, I think we're going to see in the short term, when this becomes a thing, more of that happening. And so, because why wouldn't it? Given society today. So, when you look at them elements, are we then turning around and saying they're held to a different standard, or why are they then going? Because again, when you look at infrastructure, you're going to go to the moon, you're then going to have infrastructure for them to stay. Does it then end up being its own organization, its own economy, all that sort of stuff, in order to maintain the space tourism? Because people have the heavy monies. When them tourists then become ill or whatever, they're going to they'll have a different level of expectation as to what you would if you're there to work. So I think the way that people, I think the thing that worries me most is the way that people will change their perceptions about what or lunar travel is, as it becomes more commonplace. Because at the moment, if somebody turned around to you or I and said, right, Nick Barry, you're going to be on the next SpaceX the next Dragon flight with SpaceX. You're going to go up to the ISS. I think we'd both be excited, stroke terrified, stroke show me the training, show me how to do the job properly. Whereas if you then go on a bus, you don't necessarily do that. If you're on a plane now, you'll go and you'll I think most people, if you go on the train, if you go on a plane for the first time, you very much listen to everything that the safety message says. Once you've been on it 5 or 6 times, once you've been on it 10 times, once some people are on it daily, weekly, whatever, it's the same old. You're like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Just, yeah, I know the card's there. I'll put that away. Once space becomes that's probably then when we enter the biggest risk phase.
Yeah.
And what we need to understand more about is how to deal with that complacency and work and deal with the issues then.
Yeah, I wonder, there's more relation between these two stories than perhaps we're thinking about, because I'm wondering if the cadence piece is a part of, is there somebody to survive on the moon for a month while they wait for the next ship?
Yeah.
Is that kind of built into these things? I wonder if they're also kind of ties-ing the progress piece of it rather than genuine recoverability, and that feels bad to me. But hopefully, it's like, just make progress so that way we can to have something not quite go right.
Yeah, I think there's got to be something there around, like you said, having with that planning about what does that cadence look like, what is actually going to be on the moon. You then need to have them pieces on the moon to be able to maybe manage these longer term issues that you don't need to worry about in other sectors. So if you're on an offshore rig, for example, then they do have extensive medical facilities, because trying to get home is. So this is going to be the same, isn't it? That what you can do on the moon with facilities, so that means you're going to have to build medical facilities and things like that, dental facilities, etc., in order to be able to manage it. So yes, I think this is going to be a case of let's look at risk in a different way, look at how we can solve, as you said, solve issues at wherever it happens, as opposed to relying on just pulling the world's biggest emergency ripcord to get you back to Earth.
There's always the backup plan. You can as you can towards the Earth. Let's wrap up. Thank you to our friends over at Futurism and Gizmodo for our news stories. If you want to follow along, we do post the links in our Discord, where you can join us for more discussion on these stories and much more. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to see what's going on in the Human Factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, huge thank you as always to our patrons, our friends, our patrons. Truly keep everything over here so smoothly. You support us, you support the show. Barry's laughing because what's next? I think we just don't bury the lead here. Thank you to our friends over at the Human Society Technical Group for aerospace. Let's get into this week in aerospace.
Thanks, Nick and Barry. This is Elena and Phil from the Aerospace System Technical Group at HFES. Last time, during our discussion on Pilot Peer Support Program, we mentioned that pilots are trained to put their emotions in a box before stepping onto the aircraft. And we wanted to dig deeper on the emotional aspect of piloting. So this week, we invited Alejandra Ruiz Segura, who is the first author of a recent systematic literature review on the role of emotions during flight simulations. Her work was published in the International Journal of Aerospace Psychology. Hi, Alejandra. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Alejandra Resegura. I hold a PhD in educational psychology from McGill University, and the topic of my dissertation was around the role of emotions and an affect in pilot training, especially with simulations.
Yeah, so in aviation human factors, whenever we assess a new technology, we tend to focus a lot of our measures on performance and workload. This is to ensure that the technology is accurate and easy to use for pilots. But your work focused on emotions. What led you to that topic?
Well, exactly this intense connection between workload or cognitive load and performance. Like in my previous research, it was more with medical training, and then I came with high stakes professions of the decision making that these professions make can have an impact on lives of others. So in this case, I was like, what about the emotions? Like emotions are also a reaction and can play a role in the decision making and in the performance of these type of professions. When I started reading more in pilot training, I realized like it's all about workload, situational awareness, like more cognitive processing rather than emotions per se. So that's why I wanted to dig in more of like what about this affective side that is reactive can have a role in performance. And that's how I started to bring into my question of like what's the relation between affect and performance in flight training simulations.
So before we dive into your report, it would be important to give a common understanding to our listeners about the terms that you're using. So affects, emotions, mood, because they're not synonyms, right?
No, they're not. So yes, this is a good question. So affect is a umbrella term. That's how we call it, like encompass all the emotions, stress, and mood. And it's the affect is the reaction we have, like what's good for me or bad for me. It's like a quick evaluation, and then we can see it reflected in mood, stress, or emotions. Mood is we call it the emotional weather, like the affective weather. Sorry, like more in general. How are we feeling? Like you can say I'm feeling down, I'm feeling okay, but it's very general and it can last for a few days. And it's not specific to a situation. It can be positive or negative, but it's like not specific. Then for stress, it always feels as negative because it's a challenging situation and it's always arousing. But again, it lasts for a few hours. Again, like it's not specific. Like there's not one specific trigger for stress to happen. It's like more situational. And lastly, we have emotions these are the ones that are stimuli specific. They react for something specific that happened and they can be positive or negative, again, in the sense of feeling good or feeling bad. And they can be arousing or deactivating in the physiological component. So you have those, like you have 4 quadrants in the case of emotions. And for pilot training, aviation, I would say like focus more on stress and emotions because pilots usually fly a maximum of 14 to 16 hours. So the mood might change a lot in that sense. Like we have less control to understand what's the role of that affective component in their performance.
All right. Can you tell us a bit more on the methodological side of how you conducted your systematic review?
Sure. So I chose, like based on my research question, I chose 3 main concepts, and then I found a bunch of keywords and synonyms for them, which are pilots in different ways, affect, and simulations, because I wanted to understand like using simulation as a technology in training. So I merged all of those. Based on that, I chose 3 databases, including ERIC, PsycInfo, and I got 431 articles. I filtered them with Ryan, and I ended up with 29 that met my inclusion criteria. So that's how I got it. Then after reading the articles and analyzing the content, I created 5 themes of how this can kind of explain the relationship between affect and performance. So for example, one of them was like not the relationship per se, but it's like both of them are continuous processes. So that's why they're so related. Another one is like the relation between negative activating emotions and stress on performance, and the reaction to surprising or startle events. So yeah, the other two are social dynamics and the interventions to manage affective responses.
Yeah, so you mentioned that emotions can be positive or negative earlier. So did you take a look at the effect of those specific emotions on flight performance?
Yes. So again, just to be specific, it refers to like if it feels pleasant or unpleasant. And one thing that is interesting is that in case of aviation, most of the study focus on negative emotions, such as or affect, like stress and anxiety. And example, stress and anxiety have an inverted U relationship with performance, like too low or too high can be bad in the sense that an ideal level anxiety, an ideal level of stress could be good for performance, but like if it goes to the extremes, either you're bored and disengaged from the task, so that might lower your performance, or you're too overwhelmed to perform accurately. And then one interesting one that was about positive emotions was joy. This was in the case of a social situation because it was a pilot with a co-pilot. And in the case joy expressed in laughter was not so good for performance because the person was focusing more on the other, like interacting with the other person and having that social connection rather than the task on hand. So in that case, like this specific situation, like joy was not so good. But other than that, there's not a lot on positive emotions.
I mean, it really breaks my heart that laughing in the cockpit will lead you to a, worse performance. I love having positive pilots with me on the flight deck. But then, I mean, so in your work, you show that emotions really play a role in the pilot performance in the flight simulator, whether it's the effect of stress or the ability to focus on the task at hand. So, would it make sense to go back to the initial training that pilots go through, that they're being told to put their emotions into a box before going in the aircraft? Or are
Mhm.
there techniques for pilots to better control their emotions?
Yeah, so great point. Against the putting in the emotions in a box. And this is not only for aviation, it's for any high stakes profession. Like I find it's common that like no, control yourself and put the emotions on the side. For me, I see emotions as an instinctive reaction and they have a function. Like they're appearing for a reason. They're trying to say something. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. On the opposite, I think it's better to use that during the training process and seeing how they feel, how when they are triggered. So by the time they arrive to the aircraft, they know themselves more and they know they have techniques to manage. An example, one technique for managing their emotions could come from the instructor, like saying, this is a safe environment. You can express as much as you want here. No one's gonna judge you. It's for you to use this in your favor. And then providing techniques of how have instructors done it in the past, how they could do it better. Another technique is called reappraisal. It's very simple. It's just like taking this situation cognitively and how can I evaluate it differently. So, for example, if I failed this training session, instead of saying like okay, move on, which is like just suppressing, is saying what can I learn from this for next time. And so recognizing that there's something there that could be useful in the future. And yeah, again, like I'm stiff on that, on like getting familiar with emotions and knowing how they work on us and how they could play a role in performance so that they're not like this far concept from error. Like how can we use it in our favor?
Yeah, so it sounds like instead of putting it in a box, it's like recognizing it and finding the right technique to cope with them and to use them. Thank you so much for that explanation. Thank you so much, Alejandra, for joining us today. It's been wonderful talking about your research. We look forward to seeing that development in the future. And that's all we have for today. Take care.
Oh, so nice hearing from experts who actually know their stuff about pilot psyche. It's almost like we planned that to be. I mean, we did plan that to be part of this episode.
Oh, we totally planned it. I mean, you can see how it all just tied together and was completely inspired and thematically hung together. Like, yeah, it was amazing. We're so good.
Perfect. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Elena, and thank you, Alejandra, for your your This Week in Aerospace. We really appreciate that segment. It's one of my things that y'all do here. I have no good segue. One more thing. What do you got?
So this week, in fact, today, I've been to see Project Hail Mary, which anybody who's been listening to this podcast for a while will know that we've been looking forward to this, or nervous about going to see it for a while. So it's perhaps my most anticipated film ever. So if you want to hear more about what we do, you either meet us in the post show, or we'll do some more bit down the line once Nick has been to see it. However, really, what my one more thing is around CAD design and review tools, because anthropometrics is something I've done some of, but not loads of. And when I've been playing with when I've been playing with some of this stuff, it's quite expensive, especially when you start getting into the VR world, because obviously using things in VR makes certain elements of anthropometric design development and testing so much easier. But when I really played with it, I would say 5-6 years ago, it's expensive. You have to have specific suites set up, and only the larger companies are available to do it. I've been more looking into recently the ability to develop some of that CAD type VR capability over the past couple of weeks, and actually, it's impressive what you can get now at such a low cost. So using things like MetaQuest headsets, using things that are much cheaper than the tens of thousands of pounds that they used to be, you can actually get some fairly easy to develop for either cheap or free CAD and be visualizing it and interacting with it in a fairly simple setup, and be able to do that sort of assessment. So I'm really quite impressed about just how it's the one bit around the VR world and maybe the XR world I'm now actually really buying into, is the fact that you can do this sort of analysis cheaper and easier, therefore becoming more effective than you ever could do. So yeah, big thumbs up for VR and CAD.
And we're still waiting on that what Apple Vision, right?
It's true. That's why I didn't mention to them, because they keep on ghosting us.
Right.
Nick, what about you? What's your one more thing?
Oh, you mentioned Project Hail Mary. I've read it now. I've read the book and the post show. So you can meet us there. My reel this week, since we're doing a real one, is I. Are you familiar with the tool Figma?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I've been knee deep in Figma. It's a great tool. It's a great tool. The thing that I've been doing, building components, reusable components, and I still that this is what human factors trained people should be doing with their time. It's out of necessity that I'm doing it. But what I'm finding is that it gives me a better appreciation for what designers do. When I'm building these components, like human factoring that happens at the micro level. Oh, does this need a drop shadow, an outline? What is going to be more visually salient against the background here? So I'm doing those like micro human factors levels versus like a systems level, which is what I'm typically better doing. And it's been a good reminder to myself that understanding the components that make up a system is often just as important as the system as a whole. It's a nice like little myself, not that I forgot it, but just that, oh yeah, this every level, and that overthinking to the max is a real thing when it comes to so that was my one more thing, and that's it for today, everyone. If you like the episode and enjoy some of the discussion about space, go listen to last week's episode. Why not? Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the stories this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can join us on our Discord community. As I mentioned, we post all of our latest news there. You can visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest human factors news. You like what you hear, you want to support the show, you can be a super cool elite Patreon like some of our in Patreon. There's a couple things else you can do. I'm switching this up a little bit. I don't know why. Leave us a 5-star review. Just do it. It helps. you could tell your friends about us. That also helps. And then supporting us on Patreon if you want to give us your money to help us cool things. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Kirby, thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about your trip to the moon?
Well, my upcoming trip to the moon, I will have to tell you about how I made my children cry about that. But you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram if you want to see where I'm going with my pottery journey at the moment. But fundamentally, for a more human factors perspectives, if you want to hear news and interviews with human factors professionals and those people who are associated, find me on 1202 The Human Factors Podcast, which is 1202pod.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning in to Factors Cast. If you're watching, listening, stay tuned for the post show. Until next time, it depends.
It depends.
Okay, timing was a little Barry. Let's try one more time. It depends. Nailed it. Okay, great.
I think it doesn't help when you've got a lag, but never mind.
Probably not. It was great on my end. Who knows?
Fine, that's cool. That's good. Oh, we got the music as well. Oh, that's good. We can properly chill out.
Decompress.
I'm impressed that actually I haven't used Figma in quite a while. So just as while you mentioned it, I pulled up my my Figma site to see how long it is since I've played with it, and all of my most latest project is 2. So I haven't touched it in 2 years.
Wow.
For what it is, I've used it to. I more used it to develop wireframe concepts and things like that rather than the more in-depth stuff. But it's
See,
it is a really good.
I need those components, the wireframes, in a fast way.
Yes.
That's why I'm spending the time.
It's work. If you can make your the library work for you, then it's pretty epic. I just did find that sometimes you have to invest the time in it to make it truly worthwhile. But
that's
you
what
can
I'm
do
finding right now.
Yeah. But in terms of doing that interface design piece in order to then show to other people to make it work, I mean, the fact that the interactive elements of it now, you're basically showing a UI completely front up is really powerful. It's really cool. I will have to go back and explore it.
I'm going to give a 15-minute warning. In about 15 minutes here,
okay.
we're going to discuss Project Hail Mary. We're going to discuss the story that includes everything that you would find in the book. We're not going to discuss movie spoilers. Maybe some brief mentions of the movie. But
we can do some brief allusion to. But yes, I will try and do all I can to not blurt anything out.
Okay. So this is your now 14. We're going to do this at 15 after. So with about 15 minutes left, we'll spend the last 15 minutes doing a spoiler cast on the tail project, or on the tail end of our project. Tail end
Go on,
post show, talking about Project Hail Mary. There, I did it.
What was quite interesting about our thing is we mentioned 2 out of 3 of Andy Weir's books, and we missed. I should have been more switched on because we could have got all 3 of them.
Yes. Oh my god, we could have.
We missed Artemis out.
Oh my god, we totally did.
Which was it was actually Artemis. Artemis is all based on the moon, and it's all about accommodation and culture and all that sort of stuff. It would have actually hit right in there. I can't believe it.
Really nice. We'll do it in
post.
We'll in post.
It's just randomly just have the word Artemis.
Artemis.
We could have, given how much the Amazon have spent on advertising for Project Hail Mary, surely they could have thrown us some advertising money our way to help them with their advertising efforts of this project.
Clearly, they're struggling for promotion. Clearly, that they would resort Human Factors podcast, a small but dedicated audience. Actually, I don't know. Do I talk? I'm not going to talk numbers. I'm not going to talk numbers. For the numbers talk, come see us at HFES. Well, you won't be there. I'll be there. For the numbers talk.
I might. I'll hopefully be there virtually.
Yes. Well. Part
we
of that
worked
is
out?
Not. No. Keep it general.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know what our plans are. We will have a presence there, so not no specific.
Because we also need to think about E317 as well.
Yes. And then do you need any support on EHF? Because that's coming up soon.
I don't know quite what the score is with EHF this year, because for the first, so in fact we could maybe offer a bit of an exclusive here. I thought I was going to have absolutely nothing to do because I put in no papers. I've not been asked yet to do anything like, so last year I got asked to do a few last minute things. I hosted a panel talk and all that sort of stuff. This year, nothing. Clearly, nobody likes what I do, so there's been no place to my ego to come and do stuff. So I was sort of keeping it like that, and then if I can interview people, grab them off and do a bit of a side quest interview, was going to do it and see how we get on. And I think that is probably still the case. But my idea about that I wasn't going to get involved with any of the CHF management and stuff for a while, because obviously I until, when did I finish being past president? Last year before, whatever it was. I said, right now I'm going to give it a decent break in order to let the organization do what it is without me sitting looking over its shoulder. Turns out I can't do that because as of May I'm going to be the CIHF treasurer.
Just when you thought you were out, they pulled you back in.
Well, it was sort of one of these things. I had a couple of people reach out to me, clearly knew which buttons to push, suggested that I could maybe continue some of the work that I'd started and things like that. And I was like, that's a fair point. And so, I go back onto the executive in next month. So much for like taking a big step. But then to most people that will come as no surprise whatsoever. So, so we'll see what happens with EHF. I think this year is going to, like I say, it's going to be a interesting year, relatively chill, I would say. Next year is going to be big, both from obviously because it's the IEA thing, but it's going to be big from a CHF perspective, and it's going to be big from a HR perspective, because we're going to be putting stuff in there and hopefully demonstrating a couple of things. So some physical capability that we're developing and my software capability. And so, I really want us to have a strong communications presence as well. So, we probably need to think about that at some point.
Yeah. Well, let me need any support. Happy to support however I can remotely.
Cool. Yes. It'll be fun. Certainly with next year, I think that I don't know quite what to expect, because I've never been in person to one of the triennials. I was at the last triennial presenting. I presented remotely, so you didn't get the full perspective. It was in South Korea. So obviously coming to London, it's going to be like it's replacing EHF. So we're not having a separate EHF conference. It's all going to be in one. So I know what people's perspective. A lot of people have sort of suggested that IEA tends to be a bit more academic, purely academic focused, where EHF is academic, and we've been putting a strong drive towards sort of practitioner case study led stuff as well. So whether it'll be interesting to see how that evolves around all of that piece. So yeah, we'll see how IEA actually works and does it.
That's in 20.
Yeah, so that's next year. Which is kind of crazy, because I remember when we first started talking about it, we first put our proposal in, I think, when I was fairly close to being fairly new onto the CIHF trustee council board. So when I first became a council member, and so when they were talking about doing this, I was like, "That's crazy. That's years away." And then we found we had it, and I was like, "Oh well, it's." And then when I became an IEA committee member, so like 2 years ago now, I was like, "Oh, we've got lots to do in that time, but it's 3 years away, so that's perfectly fine. 2-3 years away." And now I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty much it's nearly 12 months away now, and there's still an awful lot to do." Certainly from I believe an IEA perspective, they're doing a lot more from a CHF perspective. So
yeah,
because they have a team.
Call Papers opens July 1st. You want to submit something together?
Well, why not? I think that'd be fun.
We certainly could.
Yeah, I think definitely. I really am trying. Certainly with the IEA, I'm really trying to push any comms messages that we can, because I personally think there is nothing more important that the IEA should be doing than communicating. It's the principal reason for being there. Unfortunately, I don't think everybody else shares not everybody shares my views. But that's a Tomorrow Barry problem. But yeah, I think we could do a different but similar paper to what's what we're talking about with HFES, but maybe look at a different slant. I think I'm going to be putting in. I think there's a couple of papers I want to put in anyway, because I definitely want to be presenting again on that platform, because it's fun. I'm less bothered about the papers. I'm more interested in the talking with people.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm writing a note to the lab now to see if anyone has interest.
Okay, fair enough. It's a weird thing about conference, because conferences in general, because I find that there's different things that inspire different people to write content. Because I think there is, I will write the paper, but I really get a thing out of presenting a paper and then getting the feedback from the audience about. Yes. I mean, sometimes my presentation it is about the topic that I've written about, but the paper might just be the springboard for what it is that I'm trying to do in terms of getting the feedback and things like that. So the less writing I can do, the more presentation I can do, the happier I am about it. I don't necessarily get so bent out of shape about citations and stuff like that. But then that's because I'm not an academic. I know academics are there for very different reasons. So I just enjoy, as long as I'm happy with what I'm presenting, I really enjoy engaging with people and getting other people's thoughts, because I think there's so many people in the room who are normally, well, certainly in my case, way more intelligent than me and can offer just different perspectives on, they're the expertise in the room. And it's an opportunity to say, I'm thinking this, what do you think? Rather than just people just listen to me witter on all the time. That's just me.
I don't know if I'll be able to make IEA in person, but you'll be there.
Oh, I would definitely be there. Yeah, we could, but I think we should be looking to do some sort of
yeah, we'll brainstorm.
Again, get beaming you in.
Yeah,
I'm sure we could do that. I still want to do the thing where you get one of them hosts mobile post thing where you put an iPad or other tablet on the top of it, so you can get your face on, and then you can control it remotely, and you can go and buzz around the place in your little remote iPad. I think that'd be epic.
Amazing.
I don't know where you get one, but I really want to do it.
Let's make it happen. We're just about at the 15, so I will go ahead. Oh, here we are, 15-minute mark. Hi.
15 minutes. There we go.
I'm going to once again warn you, like 3 times. We are going to discuss the entirety of Project Hail Mary, the book, which will likely be a movie that comes out this weekend. And so if you don't want spoilers, I would advise you to pack up, have a great night. We appreciate you being here. I just want to be very sensitive about that because it is a great. You should continue to go. It's a great story. Recommend you see the film. Barry, do you recommend people see the film if they've not read
Yes.
the book?
That's an interesting one, actually, because I think you get more out of it. I think you should read the book first, I think. Though if you've seen advertising for it already, then yeah, the cat's out the bag. But if you haven't seen any advertising for it, I would read the book and then go and see the film. But if you're going to go and see the film anyway, go see the film because it's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're going to start the discussion. So once again, thank you. I'm not seeing numbers drop, which is why I'm like double triple checking. Spoiler.
Yes. So you've now read the book.
I've read the book.
So you're now all clued into the actual. So, but you read it. You did it audio. Am I right? Or have you read? Have you read the?
I've done the audio book, but my wife is reading it in physical format, so I'm able to like. There were moments I stopped, and then I looked to see how that was represented in the book. To see how something was written, or to see the diagram of the Hail Mary itself. So it's kind of cool to have that experience of both handy.
It is. I mean, I think one of the things I really like about it is that the written book is the written book. Like you say, you've got like the diagrams and all that sort of stuff, which brings some of that to life. But what I love about what they did with the audio book is Rocky's voice at the beginning, where they actually, they put it into tones, and it's not until it sort of comes around. I'm just like going, that was just genius.
It's really
because
well
it
done.
really, yeah. It is.
The things that particularly, the ones that particularly stood out to me were the moment, oh, that word, and you have to go look. And in the audiobook, it'll be like he's talking. And while he's talking, there's these overtones that are happening through it. So you can actually hear him.
Yeah.
But it's translating live. And so
yes,
there are moments where a word is unclear to Grace, and so what you'll hear is just the tones, and then the and that was really well done. It's
I think the whole writing of it is just fantastic. I think it's a different book to The Martian, but actually in some respects, you obviously get the hard sci-fi writing, which is brilliant, and you can tell Andy Weir, the author, has really done what he needs to do to make the science work, which is what I like. Because, I mean, nobody's ever heard of astrophage. Nobody's ever heard of all the other scientific elements that are around this particular piece. And he's had to clearly make that whole world up. He's had to make it the elements up, but they have to fit with real physics, with real chemistry, with real science. And I just think he's done it so well that they explain how some of this stuff works, and you're going, actually, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they make the obviously when they make the engines of the Hail Mary rocket, the way that they describe them, you're going, it's such a simplistic design, but makes perfect sense when you do it. And then when they talk about how many they make and the redundancy and all that sort of stuff, it's like he's really gone to the effort of understanding that yes, not everything's going to work perfectly, it's going to break down, etc., etc. He's done almost a real human factors job.
I was going to say there's a surprising amount of human factors in that book. Everything from like Strat going, I want consumer off the shelf products, stuff that's been tested, like we wound the opportunities for failure. So stuff like that, all the way to when he's doing confirmations on the screen. Are you sure you want to eject the tank? Yes, eject, right? And then doing all that stuff and having, I really thought that was great to see that in there, because that representation in that book for our field is refreshing.
Well, you're right. There's definitely a lot of it. I mean, there's the piece where he loses all power, and they to what 2/3 of the 3/4 way through the book, and they lose all power, and then so the emergency backup comes in, and it's not a flash display, but it comes up in very basic in all 3 languages. What it is that they need to do. So that's really interesting. I think the other bit I really like about it as well is basically the psychology. There's a lot of psychology in there about different cultural appreciation, different cultures working together. Linguistics is massive.
Present.
So it does hit a lot of big issues in a way that actually a lot of these other books just don't. So no, I think for me it is one of the best books I've read in a very long time.
Now remind me, how long has it been since you've read the book or listened to the audio?
Well, I've now read it 4 or 5 times. I think I most recently read it probably a month ago.
Okay.
So I'm fairly. I was in 2 minds about whether to read it, like last week or something, in order to have it at the front of my mind when I watched the film. But I knew that they were going to make changes in the film. They have to, because there's no way they can get the amount of detail in the film than you have in the book. It's just not possible, unless they made the film like 10 hours long. So I was like,
even if they did that, they would have to make concessions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then what I had hoped for was obviously The Martian. If you read the book and then watched the film, the book has way more detail, and it has a lot more challenges in there that you had to face and all that sort of stuff. And the film, they did it really well to not focus on some of them bits. They leave some of them bits out, and you're not sat there going, "Oh, they've missed this critical part." So, yeah, I think that's again an interesting thing about when you come to do film versions of these sort of books, about how you choose what's in and what's out. But no, I think there's other interesting bits around. I think, I guess, world policy. So the Strat character, when she's able just to get people working. And one of the bits I thought was quite neat is when she goes to, she gets taken to court for copyright. And she goes there and says,
she has the paper for.
Well, she has the paper, but she also has it was the understanding that she knew she'd have to do it at some point. So she went and said, "Look, I don't need to be here to do this. I'm doing this just so it draws a line under this stuff. I have a get out of jail free card, go away." And it was just that understanding that she couldn't just say no to everything, that she would have to go some way in order to prove what it is that what she was doing. And that showed an awful lot of people management, I guess, or perception of perception requirements. So yeah, no, very interesting.
I mean, even
what was your favorite
logistics? That's a great question. My favorite part, really the ending.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a perfect ending, and I know some people are probably their feathers are probably ruffled about the ending and how it ended, but for me, it absolutely worked.
Yep. It definitely does. I think there is. I think it's quite fitting. I think it works with the characters that you have, and because obviously, again, when you look back to The Martian, in The Martian they changed the ending. They added stuff onto the ending, so I was wondering whether they would do the same here. So, but I'm not going to say anything. I'll let you find out for yourself. There was definitely a lot of stuff out there that they changed the ending. But I'm not going to tell you whether that's true or not.
No, okay.
But
I'll have to see the movie for myself.
Yeah, I'm going to make you go and actually watch it. Because again,
I'll go on Saturday night.
Because again, it'd be good to get your perspective on it, on what you think the outcome is. Do you think now, because of the books that he's produced, and so obviously I think we mentioned earlier Artemis being another Andy Weir book, and I've since found out today that that they are going to make Artemis as a film. So that's now on the thing. Have you read? I don't think you've read Artemis, have you? Or have you read it?
I've not.
So again, I think it's a worthwhile book to read, but it's very different again.
Yeah.
In what he's doing, so it's still hard sci-fi, so that's good. There's still a lot of science in it, but it's a very, from the human perspective, it's very different again. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But it'll be interesting now to see whether what sort of books Andy now writes. Because obviously we've seen other authors that when they get film success or TV success, then their writing style can change, either because they need to write stuff to capitalize on the fact that they are now very popular, or they just don't know what to do necessarily. So it'll be interesting to see what the next book is that he brings out and how that is different to the styles that he's done already.
Yeah, I am curious. I know he was out there, potential sequel to Hail Mary, and mentioned that he's not opposed to it. He's just got the right story has to be there. Second, that I think going to be memories from his portfolio that are vastly out of character for him. If that makes sense. Like, he obviously knows that this book is beloved, and there's a desire to see what happens next. But again, he's like not willing to do it unless there's a.
I was going to say, because I almost everybody's about the trilogies at the moment, aren't they? And every film has to either have sequels, prequels, all that sort of jazz. I don't know whether a sequel to Hail Mary, whether that will be a good thing or not. I don't know. My gut feel is I think I would be disappointed. I think I like the fact he's clearly got the space theme going on. Space is a very big place. I think he could easily pick up other stories with his style of writing.
Yeah, I mean, what he's done Mars, he's done the Moon, he's done Tau Ceti, and by extension the neighboring planets. I think the line about the sequel The interesting thing to me would be that to me it's a return home. But is that return home all that he wants it to be? And I feel like there's a very rich story to be told there about human nature, of ways opposite of what this novel would be. And I feel that like it would be realistic, but I feel I'd be disappointed in the like human nature that is exhibited. Like, because here's my, I can imagine him going, okay, I've lived with you on your, come with me to my planet, and then Rocky and Grace go to Earth, but then Earth treats Rocky very differently than how Rocky's people treated Grace, right? Like that would be, I think, you know, and what does that do for their friendship? And that creates a bunch of conflict, and there's like some good thing there, but I don't know how you make a happy ending out of that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think if he was to go too far into that type of thing, then he would be getting away. I mean, what he seems to do brilliantly is weaving the human story with the technology story, or with the technology platform, shall we say, and makes all that stuff blend together really, really well. If he was to focus, I think, too far on one way or the other, then particularly if he starts getting too political, effectively, because you know, in Project Hail Mary, there is obviously political stuff in there, but it's not strong. He does allude to, you know, differences in like say culture, behavior, governments and government cooperation, all that sort of stuff, but he makes it work. But he doesn't go too far into it.
The other piece, and I don't know, I've not read Artemis, but the societal piece of it, he does very well with psyche. You know, what is it? The death or something.
Yeah,
something like that. He does that very well. But I don't know. There was not the threat of death from the vacuum of space. What that would change, right? Like, how does that change the outcome? Anyway.
Yeah, well, I guess
kind of late for you.
But it's now earlier than what we usually do.
Yeah.
So, you know, normally we're about halfway through now. So, yes, it is. It's.
I'm giving you an out if you want to go to bed early.
Say again?
I said I'm giving you an out if you want to go to bed early.
Yes. No, it's probably a good idea, because actually I haven't eaten dinner yet. So yes, I'm going to actually go now and eat, and then go and because that's the rock and roll lifestyle that I lead.
All right.
But
well,
yes.
If you're still with us, thank you for enjoying the conversation with us, for hanging out, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time to talk about South by Southwest with Megan Michaels, who will be our guest then, and we'll see Human Factors at South by Southwest. And in the meantime, like I said, you can always visit us on our Discord. Hope y'all have a great weekend. If you're going to the movies, enjoy it, and we'll talk next time. And that's all I got. Barry, you got anything else?
Awesome.
Okay.
No, I shall see you in a couple of weeks. Have a good time.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast, your ultimate source for all things human factors.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our monthly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and access to the full library of Human Factors Minute, a weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you.